Sup everybody, Soapbox Bill here with our next installment of DCember, and we've seen Batman, we've seen Superman, and we've seen Wonder Woman, now in their own movies and together in the Justice League. But what happened when these three team up against arguably the greatest threat to the world and to the universe? Well, in this case, you get the movie Superman Batman Apocalypse. Why doesn't Wonder Woman get a spot on the title? Oh well. Now, why did I choose this film rather than the first Batman Superman feature? Well, the answer is quite simple. Supergirl! I love Supergirl. She's a great character, one of my favorites of the DC animated universe, of the DC universe as a whole, actually. For those of you who don't know who Supergirl is, where have you been, living under a rock? But she is a girl who grew up on Krypton, Kara Zor-El, who knew the history and culture of her people by experiencing it, rather than just reading a book or a computer file that their father sent with them to Earth. She remembers her friends, her families growing up on Krypton, which makes the loss of the planet much more felt by her and much more impactful to her. She remembers the places, the people. They were real to her. She experienced it, so that loss is a lot more, really hits her deep. Or it would if this movie didn't add a bit of amnesia, making her forget about, well, most of it. Don't you hate amnesia? That darn plot device. Oh, where was I? Oh yes, Supergirl falls to Earth during a sequence of panning shots over Gotham with audio from a radio show summing up events of the first Superman Batman movie. A fairly nice touch, if I do say so myself. It sets an ambiance without having to resort to previously on Batman vs. Superman or whatever. When her pod crashes into the bay, people call into the show and say what they saw and what they felt at the time. Again, making it feel more real. When she gets to shore, she's confused, disoriented. She doesn't speak a single lick of English, which leads to some, well, you know, the typical superhero misunderstandings. And eventually leads to her getting knocked out and taken to the Batcave by the big bad himself. And as anyone would be, she is not at all pleased by this and is frightened, because Batman inspires fear until Superman shows up himself and bridges the language gap by speaking to her in Kryptonian. But Superman isn't the only one interested in this girl. And while Clark shows her around Metropolis, other forces make moves, some for good, some for evil. A prophecy from Harbinger, one of the Amazon heroes, leads Wonder Woman trying to take Kara to Themyscira, where she can learn to control her powers. While the evil villain Darksied desires Kara for himself, to lead his honor guard and help him conquer the galaxy, and Darkseid is not one to be denied so easily. I won't go into further details about the conclusion of the film's plot. Suffice it to say, it's a very compelling story and setup. The early bits have Kara covering with some of the fluff. You know, her getting shown around Metropolis, shopping, and basically learning what it's like to be an Earthling. It shows her bubbly excitement, an endearing part of her character, but she's not so one-dimensional. Her doubts over what she wants to do and everyone trying to tell her what's best for her is a major theme of the movie, and it lasts right up until the very end, the concluding moments when she makes a decision. But enough about the plot and me gushing over how awesome Supergirl is. The animation is easily on par with Red Hood and Crisis, which came out earlier the same year. Solid, fluid fight sequences. and some really dynamic camera angles that make you feel like you are in the action rather than just watching it. Not much to say on the sound, really. The background music in places adds the right amount of ambience, and the deep thuds of the superpowered punches make them feel that much more intense. So, well done, but nothing really groundbreaking, as it were. Good sound work, still just nothing really jumping out to me. The writing was solid and the voice work excellent. Darksied is suitably evil and Granny Goodness is as sickeningly sweet as she is cruel and crazy. A few added cameos from other heroes and villains are a treat. And all in all, I can say this was a very good film. This is a take on the origin of the Girl of Steel and doesn't disappoint. The big bads are the biggest and the baddest. Kara having to face off against such foes right out of the gate is a thrilling and compelling conflict to see. Instead of the apocalypse, the Earth now has a new defender. But what other evils lurk over the horizon? What doom could yet befall our heroes? But as they say, that is a story for another day. For another day of DCember, Soapbox Bill, out.